This is Splunk Stats Command Part 2. If you haven't seen Part 1, I would strongly recommend you go and review Part 1 if you're even slightly unfamiliar with the stats command. So once again, stats is short for statistics, and it calculates statistics basically on the field value pairs in your events. Also, I will place the link in the description for Part 1. Okay, so first one we're going to hit is stats range right here. So what does stats range do? Finds the range of values between lowest and highest of the field X. Okay, so find the range of scores in student tests. We're going to be working with that body of data like we were in Part 1. Index equals student tests, really quick, is just an index filled with student names and their test scores in the times the tests were uploaded and some other information. So we're going to find the range of student test scores from lowest to highest. And we're going to use this search, stats range test score as range of test scores. All right, so index equals student tests, because we want all events from index equals student tests, stats range test score. So stats is the command, range is the function, and we want to run the range function over the test score field. And then we're going to rename the column, like we were renaming columns in Part 1. We're going to rename the column range of test scores. All right, so the lowest score to the highest score was 22. But what if we wanted to take a look at all of those? What I mean by all of those, what if we wanted to look at who had the lowest, or what the lowest score was, what the highest score was, and then look at the range? We would just put in the stats function, or excuse me, the stats command one time, and then from part one we went over min and max functions. So let's use the min right here, min test score as, because we're going to rename that column, lowest test score. Then we're going to put a comma because we want to use another function. This time we're going to use max because we want to see the highest test score. And we're going to rename that column highest test score. And then we're going to put another comma because we want to include this range function as well. And then we'll hit search. Okay, so we see here the lowest test score was 77. The highest test score was 99. And if you take 99 and you remove 77 from it, you're left with 22. So that's our range. So range just gives you the lowest number to the highest number within the field test score. Okay, so what do we have next? Stats DC. DC stands for distinct count. It counts the number of unique values of the field X and returns that. So count the number of unique scores on the set of tests taken. Okay, so let's go like this. Index equals student tests. Again, stats command, distinct count, test score. 17. Okay, so there's 17 unique values for the field test score. So let's take a little bit more in-depth look at this. So if we want to see what was the total number of test scores in these events, so what was basically the total number of test scores taken? So we'll go index equals student test, test score equals star, stats, count. 41. Okay, so for those who don't know, what does this star or splat mean? Basically, that means that's a wild card. And what we're saying here is, hey, Splunk, give me everything from index equals student tests and give me every event that has a value in the field test score, and then count those up for us. So we're left with 41 as the return value. So there's 41 test scores in index equals student tests. But again, if we want to know how many of those are unique, we would, instead of saying count, we would say distinct count test score. So of those 41 test scores, 17 of them are unique numbers. Okay, what do we have next? So stats values. This one I use a lot. Displays all of the unique values of the field X. The order of values is lexicographical. And basically that's a big word just to mean it's ordered like a dictionary, like alphabetically. Okay, so we're going to find all unique values of the field test score. And we're going to do this search right here, which will return all events in index equals student tests and display all unique values in the field test score. And again, I use this one quite often myself. So this is very valuable. You should hang on to this one. Okay, so stats values, test score. Here is all those unique values in the field test score. Now, what if we want to say, hey, can I just take a look at all of the values, not just the unique ones? Well, we can do this list function. And what the list function is, it returns a list of up to 100 values of the field X as a multi-value entry. Now, don't be thrown off by this word, multi-value. The order of the values returned reflects the order of events returned. So it's going to return all the values in the order that it sees them. So what is a multi-value field? It's basically one field that has multiple values attached to it. Now, I'm not talking about unique field value pairs. What I'm talking about is a field that has multiple values. So a good example of this is, say you're looking at email traffic and you have the field called to. And you, after the field to, you have a whole list of people that the email was sent to. That's a multiple value list, or a multi-value field, because the field is to and there's multiple values for the field to inside of one event. Okay, so we're going to find the first 100 values of the field student using this search. And this search will return all events in index equals student tests and display the first 100 results, and they can be multi-value, in the order of events returned. Okay, so let's go stats list. If I can get my spelling right there. 42 events. Here is a list of all students. Now, I told you, or I said to you, let's look at the list of test scores. Okay, I got to figure out why that isn't returning. Oh yeah, I believe it's test score, not test scores. There we go. Just goes to show you how important it is to get the exact name of the field. Okay, so here are all the values in the order that they were returned. Now remember, this does not give us unique values. This doesn't get rid of the duplicates. This just gives us everything. It's a list of the first 100 values returned. Remember, if we want unique ones, we go values, test score. Okay, what do we have next? Stats earliest. Ooh, some people can really get some use out of this one. Returns the chronologically earliest occurrence of a value in a field. This is the earliest by timestamp, not ingestion time. So chronologically, what do they mean? They mean, well, chronological in general means related to the flow of time. So basically they're saying returns the earliest occurrence of a value in a field based on timestamp, not based on ingestion time or some other parameter, but just based on the timestamp. Okay, so we're going to find the earliest event where student, the field student, has a value of Adam. And we're going to use this search where it returns all events in index equals student tests, where the student is equal to Adam. And then we're going to display the earliest event by the timestamp. So let's do that. So we're going to go index equals student tests. So Splunk give us everything from index equals student tests, where student, the field student, is equal to Adam. Then we're going to go stats earliest. And remember, this is by timestamp, not by some other parameter. And then we're going to say raw, give us the raw event, and we're going to rename the column raw log. Okay, so here's the raw log by timestamp, the earliest log, or excuse me, the earliest event where student is equal to Adam. So let me explain what that underscore raw field is. Raw contains the original raw data of an event. This is a default field extracted at search time. Default fields are extracted from your events when they hit the indexer. So they are not extracted at search time. They are extracted when they are initially ingested into Splunk. Going over why that's important and how that functions is kind of outside of the scope of this video, so I won't talk about it. But just know that it underscore raw, anytime you see a field underscore anything, it's normally a default field, and it's extracted at index time. And as you can see here, underscore raw just contains the raw unparsed event. Okay, so if we can do stats earliest to see the earliest event by timestamp, let's do latest, where we see the latest event by timestamp. Again, kind of the same as earliest. The function latest returns the chronologically latest occurrence of a value in the field X. And this, again, this is by timestamp, not ingestion time. So chronological related to the flow of time. So we're going to do this search, index equals student tests, student equals Adam. We're going to return all events in the student tests index where student is equal to Adam, and then display the latest by timestamp. So let's take note of this time because this is the earliest, right? So 3 minutes and 17 seconds past midnight on 8 January. So if we want to do the latest, all we have to do is type in the function latest for the field raw as raw log. Okay, so the previous one, or the previous raw log we looked at, was 3 minutes and 17 seconds past midnight. The latest is 4 minutes and 14 seconds past midnight. So here's earliest, where student equals Adam, 3 minutes, 17 seconds. And here's latest, student equals Adam, 4 minutes and 14 seconds past midnight. Okay, what else do we have? All right, a little bonus here. We want to see the earliest occurrence of any value in a given field. So we're going to do this search, and this will return all events in the student tests index where the field student exists. And then it displays the earliest event by timestamp. Okay, so let's go. Student equals star, and remember student equals star is just a wildcard, so we're telling Splunk, give me everything in student tests index where the student field has a value attached to it. So we'll go stats, earliest, and then we were going to do, what was the field we're going to do? Student as, we're going to rename the column student name, and then we're going to put a comma because we want to do another function related to the stats command, and this one is going to be earliest raw. Underscore raw as, rename the column raw log. Okay, so it looks like the earliest occurrence in index equals student test, the earliest occurrence of the field student is that value of Adam, and it's that raw log at 3 minutes and 17 seconds past midnight. So that's how we see the earliest occurrence of a field in an index. So this is useful when, well, there's a lot of different ways this can be useful, but this is going to be particularly useful when you want to see something pop up in your events and you want to see what the earliest time is that something popped up in your events. Now, remember, if you're looking for a specific field value pair or a specific field, you want to put that before the pipe here and before the stats command, because you're telling Splunk, give me everything in all the events in student tests with where there is a field of student that exists. Then we want to run the stats command and the function over that returned data. So I hope you learned something today. I'm probably going to publish a part 3 eventually because there's a lot more functions you can do with stats. And take care.